Good evening, everyone. This is Tim Wilson. I'm with CETO Crystal Coast, Morehead City. I handle their special events for them at this time, or some of their special events, as well as their email newsletter. I'm the guy that sends you a newsletter every month. So I hope you enjoy that. What we've got a special privilege tonight. We do have Captain Russell Weaver with us from Blue Water Candy Fishing Lures. He's going to talk to us about the art of trolling. Trolling is something that we all do, or most of us anyway, do it. But, I got to tell you, knowing Russell the way I know, I think we're going to learn a lot tonight because Russell honestly understands that. He fishes the SKA circuit very successfully, and he does an awful lot of fishing for research basis to research new lure combinations as far as designs and colors and all of those things. So I think you're going to be surprised with what you hear tonight and what you're able to see tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Russell, welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first, let's get started. Most of us, as I mentioned earlier, we do troll from time to time. Many of us really don't understand the real strategies of trolling. We just kind of watch the other boats out there and we try to mimic what they do, or we learn from a friend. But share with us your thoughts on how trolling can increase your fishing success.
Well, when we're trolling, we're typically targeting species that are of the pelagic nature. They are constantly moving, so we're talking about any kind of mackerel, mahi, tuna, wahoo, even billfish for that matter. And all of these fish, like I said, are constantly moving. They find a body of water, whether it be a certain temperature or holding bait, and they will continue to move with that body of water until a better body of water comes along. The trolling aspect allows you to cover a larger area of water throughout the day and kind of adapt to different techniques over time, different patterns, which we'll talk about later, that the fish may be presenting to you on a different day every day that you're out there. No 2 days are alike, and I don't know, there's just a little bit more involved to me with trolling as far as a strategy, as opposed to where you're sitting over a ledge bottom fishing. It takes a lot of skill to anchor up properly over a wreck, but once you're there, it's pretty much redundant as far as dropping bait down, having them chum out, stuff like that. So trolling gets into using different lures that run differently in the water, give off a different perspective to the fish, and just trying to get a little bit keener sense of what they want to see and what they're feeding on in their natural habitat.
Okay, very good. That's that's kind of what I thought, but I really didn't. I don't think I could communicate as well as you did. Now, tell us this: how does trolling increase the reaction of the target species that we're fishing for? Tell us how trolling actually makes that better. We got the part about you get to cover more ground and go where the fish are a little bit more, but tell us what kind of reaction it creates for the actual fish that we're fishing for.
Well, pretty much with trolling, it's a reaction strike. The predator fish are always trying to chase that bait fish who's trying to elude them, as opposed to where on a bottom fish structure you're sitting there, your bait's still, and the fish is just coming and picking along at it at whatever speed it wants to. The aggressive nature of the fish, you got to have your lure and/or bait presentation a little more precise to get that same nature as what it looks like in real life to the fish with the schools of bait. So it's all about reaction and something that really irritates the fish in order for it to strike your bait.
Does that reaction vary from species to species, or are they pretty much all the same in the way they react and the way they respond to trolling the baits?
Um, Pretty much they're all the same, with the exclusion of billfish. Um, Billfish are going to slash at their bait and try to stun it and then circle around back on it, whereas most of your other wahoo, tuna, king mackerel, mahi, it's pretty much a one shot. They're going to come with a high velocity of speed and come across the bait. If they miss, they'll get aggravated and turn around on it usually. But depending if you're pulling lures versus natural bait or live bait, if the fish misses, there's a different reaction for the angler as far as how they need to present that bait in order to get that secondary strike from the fish.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, if you're live bait fishing, or if you are pulling ballyhoo or cigar minnow, some form of dead bait, if a fish comes across and misses your hook with any kind of natural bait or live bait, you're going to want to drop that bait back to the fish, trying to keep it in the same spot in which the initial strike occurred. That way the remaining pieces of the bait are going to flutter down just like an injured bait fish would through the water column and be fair game for that predator fish to swing back around on. If you're pulling a lure and the fish misses, you don't want to change the position of the lure, because with any lure fishing, the first thing it's going to do is going to have a little bit extra head weight. It's going to sink. So with lure fishing, you want to actually keep the same speed, or if you see the fish come back around, more case so in mahi and billfish, occasionally wahoo, you're going to want to take the lure away from the fish or speed it up, again causing that reaction strike in the predator fish.
So he basically, the fish is thinking that he's injured the fish, so he's coming back for the fight now, or to finish him off.
Correct.
Okay.
And if he misses that lure, then he's just getting irritated and he's going to swipe at it again.
Okay. All right. Now, one of the things that, before we get into the colors and the rigs and things like this, talk to us a little bit about teasers and things like this, the significance and the usefulness of those.
Okay. Well, starting off, you got to think about from the fish's perspective. If you're underneath the water looking up, the shadow that your boat is casting looks like a big school of bait. It's a big dark blob. The use of dredges, daisy chains, stuff like that coming out of the back of the boat is going to simulate small broken off from that big pod of bait, thus your boat, and it's going to make it more susceptible for the predator fish to strike that smaller pod of bait. Same thing with a teaser skipping on top of the water and forming some kind of daisy chain. It's causing commotion, again, further away from the boat, from the main bait school. And thus, as you get further away, you'll have smaller pods of bait. I run a lot of inline teasers in front of my lures and or dead baits to still cause commotion, on further back from the boat. So it still looks like more bait fish have broken back. And then you're going to want to position your lures or bait in a proper manner around these teasers and dredges, so it looks in one of two fashions. It either looks as though it's a individual bait fish trying to struggle to keep up, or if it's a big enough bait and an aggressive bait, which means it's got a lot of commotion, and it can be live, dead, lure, depending on what kind of sea witch or any other lure you might put in front of a dead bait. Something that causes commotion and splashing water right behind these dredges will also emulate a predator fish of smaller nature, chasing the bait school, which is going to bring even your bigger predator fishing.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I never really used a lot of teasers before. I know that, I used them a few times, but I just really didn't understood the psychology of it. But how do you think effective they are? Do you like using teasers in most cases, or is it something depending on the species?
For any offshore fishing that requires trolling with dead bait or lures, I recommend it 100%. The only reason it's not on the boat if I'm out there is because I somehow woke up in a trance and forgot to pack it. A lot of people associate teasers and dredges with billfish only. Any pelagic fish comes up to that bait ball. I've seen mahi come right through it. I've had it ripped apart by wahoo. I tend not to use them as much slow trolling because you can't get a good enough pulsating feature because you're not going fast enough doing a slow troll with live bait. And you got to have that little bit of speed to get all your skirts inside of a dredge where they pulsate just like a school of bait. It expands and contracts as it moves through the water. So I use them 100% of all different shapes. I use them, like I said, in line on my coming from my rods to my bait. I usually fish off a 27-foot center console. Does not have outriggers, so typically I'm pulling either a dredge or a daisy chain of some sort right off the corner. And on a smaller boat, I'm trying to maximize all that commotion I can further back from the boat by pulling in-line teasers of some sort in front of all my baits.
Okay, very good. That's a lot of good info there. That takes me to the next level. Now, let's talk a little bit about the factors of trolling when it comes to things like, I'll name the whole list: speed, color of lures, time of day, and sea conditions. But let's start with the speed of the vessels. What kind of speeds are we looking at, and how important are the speeds to actually being successful trolling?
Speed is an important factor. It's overlooked by a lot of fishermen. And the biggest thing there, typical trolling speed for offshore trolling, and we're not talking about live bait fishing at this point, anywhere from that 5 to 7, 6 to 8 mile an hour range, depending on your vessel. Different vessels are going to present a better wake out the back of the boat for your lures to run up and down at different speeds. And that's going to depend on how far you put your baits back to get them to run properly. Biggest thing that you got to look with speed is the current. When you're out there and you're fishing further offshore, if you get into a bunch of current, you may be going, 6 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour going in one direction. You do 180 degrees, and now you're going 12 miles an hour because the current's moving so quick. If you were getting bites at the 6 mile an hour, then you're going to want to back your vessel down to try to keep your baits swimming in the same manner that they were at that 6 mile an hour, going in the previous direction, going into the current. And if you speed up, it's going to have a totally different presentation at that faster speed, which may not get the bites that you're looking for.
All right, very good. And here's the big thing, and I know you are the expert on this if you're not the expert on anything else, which you actually are. The color of lures. Tell us basically what you can in 10 minutes or less about lures, their colors, and especially their colors, because I know that's pretty important.
It is. Typically, I don't pull a specific color based off the time of day. Usually my spread of colors will be an assortment. When I put 6 lines out, I'll have some dark colors, obviously, purple, black, red, black, which a lot of people associate with wahoo fishing, but get hit plenty of times by mahi and blackfin tuna. Your staples are blue, white, and pink, white. It's been said by numerous people that blue is the easiest color to see in the water, which is kind of hard since it's the color of the water typically. And then I do a lot of flash. I'm very big on stuff that has a lot of flash in it, just because a lot of your bait fish, I mean, the scales, when they move, the light reflects off of them differently. So I have a lot of stuff that's flashy. If I am targeting mahi, for instance, I will pull brighter colors. All these fish are carnivores. They feed on their own. Mahi will eat smaller mahi. Wahoo will eat smaller wahoo. King mackerel eats Spanish. So I basically put a variety of colors out until I can determine the pattern to see if they're, king on a certain color that day. And from there, I adjust my spread to try to maximize my bites.
Okay. Anything else about color? Because I know you guys experiment with colors as well as designs all the time. Any species react any differently as far as colors?
Wahoo, for some reason, the eyesight wahoo tends to focus on a darker color. I don't know why, but it does. It's just been proven over time. I don't know the biological portion of it. Again, mahi tend to go for your brighter colors, which seems to be the case with king mackerel as well. King mackerel, we do have a lot of success with pink, lime, same colors I'm pulling for mahi, I'll use for live bait fishing for king mackerel. Getting into billfish, it's an array of colors. I mean, you got oranges, and I don't know, there's a set color combination for that. My biggest thing is I just try to put colors out there that will closely resemble what they're feeding off. I've seen a lot of flying fish in the area. I'll tend to put more blue and white or blue and crystal out. If I'm seeing less fish, if I'm seeing a lot of blackfin tuna around, I'll tend to pull some more black and gold lures in the case for wahoo being around, since wahoo will feed on the blackfin. So it kind of just depends on what's the ocean telling me that day as far as my bait. As far as cloudiness, I tend to run my darker colors deeper in the water. The lighter colors up top with the more flash, you get that reflectant off of the sunlight to be easier for the predator fish to see.
Okay. All right, very good. That's great information there. Now, tell us about the time of day. Is there any particular time of day that's a better time for trolling or a worse time for trolling?
Typically early morning and late afternoon, around that sunrise, sunset time frame, is better for your pelagic fish. Wahoo tend to bite at these times peak. Typically when the sun starts to rise up, they will start to go down again, chasing that water temperature I talked about earlier. As the surface temperature warms up, they may have been comfortable, feeding in that 76, 77 degree water temperature. And as the sun gets up overhead and warms that top layer up, they're going to get a little bit deeper trying to stay in that 76, 77, not be right up on the surface in that 82, 83 degree water temperature. So it's all about them being comfortable and trying to present your baits. You're going to have to adjust your depth of your baits. I tend to find that most of my bites during the middle of the day will come a little bit deeper or come closer to the boat. Again, because that little bit of shadows casting from the boat like a bait ball. It's not just out there for a single fish that they're going to come up to the top. They want to feed. If they're going to come up out of their comfort zone, they want an easy meal. I guess that's how best to describe it.
They're going to go the effort. It's going to be easy.
Correct.
Okay.
And that trickles down even to on the beach. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people with Spanish mackerel fish. Spanish mackerel is typically very hard to catch during the middle of the day, typically. But the activity decreases during that, 10 to 2 time frame, 11 to 2 time frame when the sun's straight above us. It's almost like it's easy with the lower light. It's easier for them to see the bait fish to some degree. There's a little bit less glare on the water, and I don't know. You can get out there one day and catch them at, have them biting at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And then tomorrow, they won't bite until 3:30 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon for that last hour and a half. So it's all a matter of just kind of getting more time on the water, keeping a logbook of the conditions, and then just trying to be repetitive in it.
Okay, very good. Now, let's talk about live bait for just a minute. Tell us some things that, when using live bait, tell us what we need to know about choosing the right bait and the proper rigging for the bait. I know, just like with kingfishing, there's so many baits that you can use, but I think I probably know what you use. I think I know what most of the SKA tournament guys use. But tell us a little bit about it. I know a lot of it depends on the time of year, what's available, because live bait is, in fact, live bait, so you can't get it all year long. So tell us about live bait and tell us what we need to know about using live bait.
Well, most of your live bait around here for most of the year for trolling aspects is going to be menhaden, and that's anywhere from Morehead all the way through Southport. They tend to show up in Southport earlier, and then kind of migrate up, and then they stay up around Morehead into the later portion of the year, into the later fall, early winter time frames, and they move offshore. They fluctuate inshore and offshore. A lot of times you'll catch them on the beach, in the waterways, but menhaden is it's not a very delicate bait if you keep it healthy in your bait tank. Biggest thing is not to overcrowd your bait tank, and don't put more than about one. I'm sure everybody's heard the rule: one bait fish per gallon of what your bait tank holds. So it's 45 gallons. Don't stuff more than about 45 baits in there. 50 at max probably. As far as rigging them, you do need to be cautious. I rig everything through the nostrils. Don't ever close the mouth of a live bait up, obviously, because it's not going to be able to live. If you have to go to a different source other than menhaden, bluefish, for that, I typically fish more bluefish in that late fall time frame, when menhaden, depending on your location, might get a little bit scarce. And I'm typically live bait fishing for king mackerel, obviously. I don't do any live bait fishing offshore. But if there's other bait fish present where I'm fishing, typically I will try to catch the other bait fish. I can have all the confidence in the world in my menhaden or bluefish or pinfish if need be. But if my bait presentation is not matching the hatch that the fish are feeding on, then I'm usually trying to jig bait. If I've circled an area that has bait and I haven't gotten a strike probably in about 45 minutes to an hour, and I can see predator life, I'm usually trying to jig bait, whether it be cigar minnows, grass shad, excuse me, trying to match that hatch. Bluefish, again, I'll go through the nostrils. I will tend to pull a bluefish on my long rigger or shotgun, trying to let the bait swim freely. A bluefish is going to want to swim down. If I shorten my line coming off the outrigger and kind of keep him close to the boat, he gets has a tendency to get pulled out of the water more often than none, so he dies quicker. So I tend to put them either way back or I put them on the downrigger, so they can always constantly be in the water. Greenies or thread fins, you want to be very delicate with them. Try not to squeeze them too hard when you're putting the hooks in them. I always, like I said, put hooks through the nostrils. I put hooks in the back of the fish, treble hooks in the back. And each bait's different, how far down you can go with the treble hook in the back. Make sure you don't hit any veins or anything. If you get too far down the back, you might hit I don't know the actual terminology, but one of the, I'll say, arteries, where the bait will kind of just die instantaneously. And then also, if you hook them too low, and depending on your wire length in between hooks, you got to make sure that the bait's able to swim freely. If he's not swimming freely, then he's not going to look natural in the water, and that's the biggest thing, is trying to make sure that bait's swimming freely and looking like it's in its natural habitat. If you start to notice any reddening of the nose, or when you pull your bait in, it may be kicking very well that last 10 feet when you check it, but as you're winding it in, the mouth's wide open, that bait fish is tired. You need to change him out. He's going to kind of just flip-flop on the sides back there when you're not paying attention, or under the water where you can't see. And if one bait doesn't look properly in the spread, that's going to turn a fish off from coming through and looking at all the other bait fish in the spread. So very conscious, check your baits regularly when you're live bait fishing, and trolling for that matter, but more so live bait fishing. And try to make sure you have the friskiest baits out in your spread that you can. Again, they're going to cause the most commotion, be the liveliest, and get that reaction strike.
Very good. Okay. Well, many of us have heard about things like the term dredges, but we never really used them. I know I've never used dredges out there. Tell us the purpose and the best use of dredges. I know you guys in Blue Water Candy are the experts on dredges. Cody or the dredge kings. Tell us what they're used for. Tell us what the benefit is to using dredges.
Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, the dredges is a series of skirts. It can be made up of skirts and ballyhoo or mullet. It can be made up of imitation rubber shad. It can be just skirts by themselves. It can be holographic images of fish. But basically, the dredge is going to be a series of skirts, baits, piled together, and it's basically imitating a independent bait ball. And you're going to position it slightly behind the boat, usually in the clean water behind the prop wash. Would be, roughly 20 feet, 25 feet on most boats. And what you want to do, biggest thing with a dredge is, or two biggest thing is, one, you want to make sure it's completely under the water. It's made up of a bar in front that's usually going to have either 4 or 6 arms coming off of a center hub. And you want to make sure that all of those bars are completely under the water. If even the slightest bit or tip of one of those bars is sticking out of the water when you're pulling it, it's not running properly and it's not going to be effective. Those bars are designed to flex. They come in different thicknesses based off what you're pulling. If it's imitation squid, a common dredge around here is one that's made up of 39 9-inch rubber squid that all contain an ounce egg sinker inside of them to keep it down, because there's so much drag it's going to want to ride up. So you'll put a dredge weight of some sort, anywhere from 48 ounces up to 10 pounds, depending on what type of dredge you're pulling, to make sure that the dredge is under the water completely. You can there's dredges out there that are very lightweight, can be hand pulled off the cleat. You can run them off your downrigger. If you have the capabilities to run them off of your outriggers on bigger sport fisheries, that's typically where they're run. And again, you're going to position that dredge behind your boat and then position your lure behind the dredge. And it's just an attractant to come up. Same thing with a daisy chain. And it's shown that a dredge will typically attract fish longer, especially billfish, will attract more billfish, but the daisy chain will keep the attention span of a billfish longer. When it comes to the pelagics, I think it's pretty much come right through and feed on it and go. There's no sticking around for it to continuously try to bite at it. But it's pretty much, again, just simulating more bait balls that have broken off from your boat and just trying to get that bite. I can tell you, though, if you're out in a school of boats trolling and there are people that are pulling dredges, they are going to get more bites than those boats that are not pulling dredges. It's just, there's no way around it. It's like somebody trout fishing with lures, and then next boat ever pulls in and starts throwing live shrimp to them. The artificial lure bite is going to end when that live shrimp hits the water. So.
Okay. All right. Now, anything else you want to add before we get into some of the products that you guys carry and what they may want to look at when it comes to those products? I know you got some new stuff coming out. Anything you want to add before we talk about
that? The only thing I'd really add, and this is what I teach or try to promote or preach, I should say, in a lot of my seminars, is patterns. Every time you go out there and catch a fish, there's going to be a pattern. First of all, when you're out there fishing, you're trolling, you got to make sure that you have some current. Current is what brings, whether it be a rip current from temperature differences, water temperature differences, or current differences. Current is going to attract bait fish and thus the predator fish. If you pull up to a spot and you put your boat in neutral and you sit there for a few minutes and you're not drifting anywhere or barely moving, you need to go look somewhere else to fish because there's not enough current there that's going to hold bait. Just when I say patterns, if I have my first fish hits a pink sea witch on the left short rigger, when I get that bait re-rigged, that pink sea witch is going right back on that short rigger in the exact same spot. No other color, no further back, no closer to the boat. As close as it was to the exact same spot with the exact same lure that just caught my fish. If I have my second bite of the day on that exact same rod or position, that's telling me right there, okay, they're keying on this color. They are keying on this distance from the boat. So my next reaction is going to put the exact same lure color and the exact same lure, if I have it, or something close, in the exact same position on the other side of the boat. And I've gotten into times where five out of my 6 lines are the exact same color lure, and I will bring my entire spread close to the boat or further back, depending on where I'm getting bites in my spread. The fish will always tell you how they want the bait presented to them. You'll find cases where you go, all your bites will be going down sea. Sometimes all your bites will be going, if you're fishing a ledge or live bottom drop off, it'll always be going in one direction. You may cross over the ledge from high to low and get bit, but not from low to high. So stuff like that, weed lines, trolling down a weed line, I usually troll about a mile down a weed line. If I don't get any bites, the first thing I do is turn around 180 degrees and troll back. Don't leave. Typically, them fish will sit and position themselves into the current, and they're going to want a bait presented to them in a certain way. So I will troll back up. If I still don't get a bite before I leave that weed line, I go to the other side and do the exact same process. So I've given it 4 trips up and down. Obviously, I'm presenting lures from each side of the boat, so maybe a different lure presentation to make sure I've thoroughly covered the ground and every angle to present to the fish. So once you find that information, it's beginning to get repetitive. The more you can repeat what you were actually doing when you got the bites, the more bites you're going to get. One of the biggest things I see is people get hooked up on a fish, and they troll for 3/4 of a mile fighting the fish, get the fish into the boat, high five, and then they spend time trying to get back to the location where they got their bite. One thing I can suggest is right when you get that bite, go ahead and start putting your boat into a turn. Even before you start clearing lines, just a shallow turn or make a quick hard turn to mark somewhere on your chart plotter, and then shallow the turn up. Try to fight the fish if he will allow in that turn, so that you're always heading back towards the spot where you got hit. The more times you can go over that mark, getting hit, the better chance you are at having a higher yield of fish. And that's not realistically, those keys right there, the patterns that the fish are telling you, and keying on those and hitting your spot as much as possible. It's what's the difference when you come back to the docks and this person in this slip over here has 4 or 5 fish, and the person over here has 15 or 20 fish.
Man, that's some great information if I've ever heard it. Thank you for that. So that before we go to the question and answer, I just want to ask you, Russell. I know you guys have got some new product coming out. Tell us a couple about. Excuse me, I'm stumbling here. Tell us about a few of them.
Well, we've kind of recently entered the soft plastics market for people inshore fishing. We're coming out with some new colors of curly tail grubs. We are in the process of designing a new flounder jig for that clientele that likes to vertical jig for flounder on the reefs, doing the whole bucktail and soft plastic combination. So got some of that in the works. We got a new wahoo lure that we call the Huda Bomb. Can be used as a high-speed lure. 16 ounces of a skirt and squid combination, and it's got stainless steel hooks, double offset hook set, and it's been effective high speeding and trolling at the regular speed of 6 to 8 miles an hour for the offshore fishermen. And for people that are not familiar with us, just give you a quick background. We are locally here in Hampstead, North Carolina, and Jody and Terry started this business 14 years ago. It's all done by families here at their house and some independent people within a few miles that tie some lures and build some rigs for us. But we have a vast array of products from inshore fishing for trout and flounder and drum, all the way off to trolling for billfish. Our biggest thing is we're here to help, whether you buy a product from us or not. We want people to be knowledgeable in the fishing industry, and we can help them catch more fish with their family and friends. They're going to be more enjoyable, and that's what we like to see to help the industry grow. And as far as the product line, we do a lot of things that aren't just lures. We do rig bags, we do cooler bags, and not just the kind that you put, you fish in. We do drink cooler bags, and we got a vast array of products. And our biggest thing is we like to work with the customers. We are intrigued by people bringing new ideas to us. And if you have something that you want to try as far as for your personal boat, it may not be something that you see on our website or anything, but usually we do a lot of customization for a lot of people. So if you have a thought in mind, it may not be something we'll produce, but if we have the tools available here, which a lot of times we do, we can definitely do some custom lures for you, custom colors, and pretty much the imagination is endless.
That's great. I know that, and if you want to know where to find their product, it's a simple answer most everywhere, especially in your local tackle shops. Yeah, I don't know that there's one around that doesn't carry it. So you may not find it specifically what you're looking for. If you don't, give them a call. Give Blue Water Candy a call. Okay, guys, I've got it opened up right now. If you've got any questions for Russell, please go ahead and step up to the plate and let's hear it. This is generally the good time that we really get into some good questions, and it brings information that Russell has offered out already kind of to a head and helps us understand it even better. So go ahead. Who's going to be first?
This is Danny. I'll go. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine, Danny.
Okay, good. I joined at, just a few minutes late, and you may have covered this, but I was going back, and as far as trolling, is it braided? Is it monofilament? Is it blue, black, white? What's some of the preferences, including the as far as the poundage of the preferred trolling line?
Okay, Danny, do you have a particular species? Are we talking about offshore trolling?
Well, and kind of both. Like if you had a choice to carry one line with you inshore, far as like Spanish and King, and then if you go out to the weed lines and you're looking at the bluer water with the dolphin and stuff, just kind of what's your preferences?
Okay. Well, I can tell you on all my personal equipment, everything is braid. Nothing. Well, for king mackerel, inshore to Spanish, even on my flounder rods, everything is 20-pound braid. On my king mackerel reels, I have 150 yards of 20-pound high-vis green mono on top of that, so I can easily see all the lines where the baits are, so they're not getting tangled. I will usually then run about 10, 15 feet of 20-pound fluorocarbon, just to have that extra clarity right to the bait and a little bit of abrasion resistance. Offshore trolling, if you're going to go straight mono, let me back up. If you're going to go straight mono in the nearshore Spanish king mackerel, 20-pound I think is completely fine. Some people will go to 30. The reason I go to braid and do mono top shot is because I can go to a smaller reel. It's not as heavy for myself or the other anglers and crew on board, so they're not going to get fatigued as quickly. And with the newer reels out, you can get just as much line capacity, obviously, on a smaller reel. I fish king mackerel reels that realistically look like freshwater bait casting reels, but I got 600 yards of line between braid and mono on them. When you get to offshore, straight 40-pound mono, 30 to 40 is what most people are going to run if you're mahi fishing. My offshore equipment, again, is braid for the same reasons I mentioned for the king mackerel stuff. It is, let's see, on some of my reels I have 60-pound braid, some of them I have 80-pound braid. Then I have a 40 and 60-pound, 150 yards, so top shot just to give a little bit of stretch. Because if you go braid straight to your swivel, and then you only have that 7 or 10 feet of mono to your lures, a lot of times more than none, it's going to just, you got to have a little bit of give. It's just going to be too much stress to pull that hook through fish's mouth when they hit. There's a good chance that it's not going to have enough give. But that's what I pull. Offshore, it is clear mono. I have a few that have high-vis jello on them, again, just for a seeing factor. And all my braid is either green or yellow. I use Power Pro braid. But that's pretty much about it. No secrets. I do not run fluorocarbon leaders offshore. I can't afford them, and I typically use 100-pound or 130-pound monos for my ballyhoo rigs.
All right. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Who's next? Going once, going twice. Nobody else is. We'll call it a night, but we got time, guys. Anybody? Okay. Hey, Russell. Look, do we have somebody?
No, I was going to say I had a question. I was just curious of the people that joined, what type of fishing most of them do, and just kind of see what kind of attendees we had, if they're willing to answer.
Danny Owens, tell us what kind of fishing you do.
Well, and I'm the amateur, so I'm just learning, and I'm fishing out of around the Emerald Isle and the Bogue Inlet. So a lot of times, depending upon the time, I'm out fishing the King and the Spanish, and I'm starting to venture further out offshore, but I'm kind of just learning to feel my way around it. And I was listening intently to the lure color and stuff, because we've been out and I'm probably 10, 12 miles out, but I've been with the flying fish and seeing a lot of activity, but not real sure what to start pulling and for really what species to really be going after, because I'm not really going to venture out 20, 25 miles from there.
I got you. Well, Danny, one piece of advice I might give to you, regardless of what I'm starting out, typically I will have some form of blue or blue-white, a pink, and some form of green out to start with.
Okay.
I'm sure
that's just top water trolling?
I'm sorry?
And that was top water trolling?
Yes, sir. That's for anything. Even that's yes, sir. I mean, king mackerel, I'm going to have usually at least one bait.
I got you. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right, Larry Harville, tell us what. I'm sorry, I'm breaking in on somebody. Go ahead. Who was getting ready to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, we done there. Larry Harville, tell us where you fish and what kind of fishing you do. Okay, Larry might not be hearing us. Larry Bauer.
Hey guys, I'm fairly new at this also. I've learned a lot so far today, but I usually stay a little closer inshore. I do a little bit of the bottom fishing on the reefs and stuff like that. I'd love to get into king mackerel fishing, but just never really known where to get started at it. So this has helped a lot. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Fletcher Carver, where do you fish and what kind of fishing do you do? Okay, Fletcher may not be able to talk to us depending on how he's set up. Let's see who else we have here. Bob Dixon.
Tim.
Go ahead.
Tim. One thing I was going to say, if any of these people feel free, just like the gentleman who was talking about wanting to get into king mackerel fishing, feel free to give us a call here at the shop. I don't know if Tim's got a slide or anything up with a number, but it's 910-270-3718, and we'll be more than happy to help you guide you in that in the direction you need to go. Happy to answer any questions for you. And I actually do a little bit of private guide service myself when time allows. So if somebody wants to get to that point, if you don't have a local charter captain near you or anybody to go with you, that's something that may be available where I can meet with some of these people and go out on their vessel and bring my equipment or use their equipment and go from there.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Russell, thank you for an absolutely fantastic presentation. I've been fishing for probably 25 years, and you've taught me a lot tonight. And as some of you know, I'm also the editor-in-chief of Coastal Carolina Fisherman online magazine, and for me to learn something, that's a lot because I'm an old guy. But Russell, again, thank you so much for sharing that wealth with us, and good luck this year with the SKA tournament. And guys, thank you for being CTO members, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thank you.